Tomorrow, I get on a plane to Phoenix, where I'm going to meet with both of these guys. Look at the thumbnail that Mike delivered ahead of the NFL owners' meetings. Round of applause for that thumbnail. If you like this thumbnail, give a thumbs up right away in the comment section. Mike works so hard behind the scenes. And if you think that the 49ers should pursue a trade for Myles Garrett, you go ahead and just say yes in the comment section. Anyway, there's a lot of business to talk about entering these owners' meetings, and so much of it relies on the finances and on the structure of how the 49ers want to build this, not just for 2026, but for the long term. And we've got a lot of questions for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, including the fact that San Francisco still has over 15 spots of this 90-man roster to fill. But I think that we are at an absolutely fascinating juncture, leaving free agency, heading into draft season. Myles Garrett's contract just got restructured. It's something that, the video I made about that yesterday just went absolutely crazy. I think over 60,000 of you have watched it so far. So I wanted to get deeper into it to actually show you Myles Garrett's contract and explain how some of this might all work. And then while we're at it, we can talk about Trent Williams' deal, how that could really interplay with what the 49ers might have in mind regarding pursuing a bookend for Nick Bosa, truly elite bookend. And we can then transition this into draft coverage, and we can make it all really interactive as we go along on this Friday evening. I know not many go live on Friday evening. I'm willing to go live on Friday evening because the talk has been absolutely on fire this week, despite the fact that the 49ers made, one move this week? They brought in Robert Jones, the left guard who might start for the team. But even despite the fact that the main waves of free agency are over, the 49ers still are generating a tremendous amount of discussion. Maybe it's just a very, very passionate fan base, but I am excited for these owners meetings. Just my schedule here for the next couple days. I'll be flying into Phoenix tomorrow. I'll get there in the evening. It's supposed to be 100-something degrees in Phoenix. I guess there's this heat wave, and I'm never surprised when it's too hot down there in Arizona. But I'm going to try some good food. I'm going to soak up some sun. I made sure that the place I'm staying at has a really nice pool in Phoenix. And then I'll head over to the Biltmore, and the John Lynch conversation, no cameras allowed. When I sit down with John Lynch, it's going to happen on Sunday. So just a very small group of us will meet up with John at the Biltmore. And then I'm going to make a video right away. Like, there's going to be an article up on the San Francisco Standard, and we'll have a video right away based on the intel that we get from John Lynch. This is one of the best events of the year. I think the best event of the year is the NFL owners meetings, as far as being able to interact with the brass of these teams. Then Monday morning, Kyle Shanahan will go at the NFC coaches breakfast. The big party is not until Monday night. So we'll see Jim Harbaugh and all those guys at the party. It's a cool reunion of the who's who of the NFL. And then the AFC coaches are going to go Tuesday morning. So brace yourselves. NFL owners meetings. Last year they were in Palm Beach. Year before that they were in Orlando. They rotate through these three locations, Phoenix, Orlando, and Palm Beach, on a 3-year basis. They have produced very, very good intel for us in the past, and I expect some more intel, especially if you like the nuanced stuff of how the 49ers might approach some of these opportunities coming up later in the offseason, because it's already been a tremendously active postseason for them. The initial part of the free agency period, obviously, has brought in a lot of veterans for the 49ers, and they still have more roster spots to fill. As you can see, the teal highlights are the new players, the new veteran free agents added for the 49ers. Every phase of the game has been bolstered. Corliss Waitman, the new punter, the secondary with Nate Hobbs, Dre Greenlaw at the linebacker position for San Francisco. Nobody has been added yet through free agency along the defensive line, but Osa Odighizuwa, already a foundational pillar of this team, added to the D-line via trade. 49ers have added 3 offensive linemen. They've re-signed Jake Tonjes at tight end. They've added 2 wide receivers in Mike Evans and Christian Kirk. And it all has been quiet so far on the running back and the quarterback front, and I expect it to remain quiet on the QB front. But we'll see if the 49ers add another body, another veteran body, at that running back position. Anyway, we're making this interactive. We're going to go through the Myles Garrett contract. We're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk, and the money that frees up there could actually go hand in hand with some of the more aggressive swings the 49ers might be able to take through the trade market, which is obviously open from now until November. You know, you talk about Max Crosby, and I know that name has been out there, and that's somebody the Raiders are probably going to hold on to for the time being, but that could all change ahead of the trade deadline. I'm not necessarily saying that would be the 49ers' number one target, but he will become more affordable over time if the Raiders aren't good. Myles Garrett, probably not on the trade block right now as we speak, but the Browns and Garrett agreed to that restructure to make a potential trade more possible. They basically lengthened the window by 6 months. And as this offseason continues to progress and the Browns go through the draft and then they look at their roster and they try to figure out where exactly they are in a rebuild, because the Browns haven't been good in quite some time, well, they might decide, oh, now's the time that we try to hoard 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029 draft capital. We will see this meeting at the owners' meetings. If the Browns' proposal to be able to use draft picks up to 5 years in advance for trades passes, and if that happens, well, then maybe Cleveland really does have something up their sleeves, because Myles Garrett is somebody who could command 3 first-round picks, maybe even more, maybe even compensation moving beyond 3 years down the line. And when a player promises to fetch that kind of value, it looks right here like the Browns might have to amend the rules in order to be able to fully capitalize on him. So a lot of fascinating strategy at play as I take a peek into the comments section. We have people asking, what about Najee Harris? I don't think so. He's coming off of an Achilles. I know that he's a local guy. I think the 49ers need more speed at running back. I think that you look at the outside zone and what the 49ers were able to run when it was absolutely lethal back in 2019. They just obliterated people with speed to the edge. Najee Harris is not a speed back. He's more of a power back. And he's obviously coming off of a severe injury. He's also on the older side of the equation, especially for that position. I think what the 49ers are currently missing at running back is a true burner. And even if Jordan James sees more time this year, that's not his role. Now, Isaac Guerendo has that kind of speed, but I don't know if they trust him as just a pure running back in terms of that skill set that they want. Vision, ball security, those types of things. And they still have to add at least one running back, probably through the draft or undrafted free agency. You know, we thought that they might try to attack it through free agency, maybe somebody like Kenny Gainwell, but 49ers decided not to do that. I think the one, let's say that I think there are 2 big traits the 49ers need to be absolutely zeroed in on to complete their running back room. One is speed. I think you need that blistering ability to the edge, and 2 is receiving ability, because the only way that you're ever going to spell Christian McCaffrey is if you could put somebody into the game who can still command the trust of the quarterback. And the 49ers haven't had that. They didn't have it with Jordan Mason. They didn't have it with Brian Robinson Jr. There's a reason why Christian McCaffrey had to get 413 snaps. That was a career high last season. Invader 49er thinks that Guerendo might get jettisoned by an undrafted free agent. I don't think that would happen until training camp. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't play last year, you didn't get a single carry last year, you definitely aren't a safe bet to make the 53-man roster. So 49ers constantly want to get better. They constantly want to have players who obviously are going to be more comfortable with what Kyle Shanahan is trying to run, and players whom Brock Purdy can trust at the highest level, especially the running back position, because that's your safety valve. That's your outlet game. That's the way to improve your pass protection, probably most effectively outside of the offensive line, right? Christian McCaffrey in 2022, when the 49ers traded for him, the sack rate went way down because Christian McCaffrey knows how to find openings, knows how to find pockets downfield, and the quarterback can trust that he's going to be in that spot. And if the receivers aren't open yet when the pass rush hits, then the QB can find Christian McCaffrey. The safety valve is a very, very important thing in this league. Hugh says none of Cleveland's QBs are good. That's true. That must mean that they should be interested in finding a franchise quarterback. Shedeur Sanders isn't any good. Deshaun Watson is terrible. Deshaun Watson is still on that fully guaranteed contract, probably the worst contract given out in NFL history. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you could, I think, very logically sit back and say, hey, 2027 draft looks loaded. A lot of good quarterbacks in the 2027 draft as well. Maybe, just maybe, with Myles Garrett at 30, maybe we should just hoard draft capital, like big time first round draft capital, because this asset that we own right now, Myles Garrett, on our team right now, his worth will never be higher. He's coming off of a sacks record. He still has prime years ahead of him. He's built like a Greek god. Right now, the Browns can get a king's ransom for Myles Garrett. And they can look forward to completely rebuilding a team that's been cash strapped by the fact that they gave Deshaun Watson the worst contract in NFL history. I mean, fully guaranteed. What was it? $230 million fully guaranteed. That probably will never be a fully guaranteed deal in the NFL future because that blew up in the Browns' faces so bad. So the Browns, it makes a lot of sense for them to be forward thinking right here and to try to build for the future. And then it's a question of, do they actually pull the trigger? And maybe they're waiting on the proposal to see if they can trade picks up to 5 years from now instead of just up to 3 years from now. That's the existing rule, and that's going to be voted on here at the owners' meetings in Phoenix. Maybe they're waiting on that, but if Myles Garrett does end up going on the trading block, who's going to be willing to pay the king's ransom that it would cost to get him? And, you know, it's not often that we talk about a Hall of Fame caliber player. And, you know, even with somebody like Max Crosby, even with somebody like Trey Hendrickson, these are really, really good players, but defects with both of them, right? Trey Hendrickson coming off the oblique injury. Trey Hendrickson, I think, probably a little too expensive for where he's at this point in his career, given the fact that the injuries have started to pop up a little bit more frequently. And Max Crosby, even though he's played through everything, hasn't been at peak performance for a few years as far as sack totals and pressure totals go. And, you know, as much, you know, trash as people talk about the Ravens, you can't deny the fact that there are issues with Max Crosby's knee. Now, I think that where the Ravens have sullied their reputation here is that they knew about these issues and they had the imaging before they actually agreed to that trade. So I think that they backed out for reasons that were outside of Max Crosby's knee, but still, there are concerns about Max Crosby's knee and the long-term health of it. All of these concerns that you have about guys like Hendrickson and Crosby, I don't think you have about Myles Garrett. I think with Myles Garrett, this is as close to a perfect defender as you can find in his prime. And because of that, he can and should, if he does actually hit that trade market, as he demanded to hit last year, by the way, he can and should go for one of the greatest costs that we've ever seen. And I think that there's a good chance that he'll be worth whatever that cost ends up being. While I'm on the topic right now, I'm going to go to the Myles Garrett contract and do a more thorough job of explaining exactly what the Browns and Garrett have executed here. So last year, and this includes remnants of Myles Garrett's previous contract, last year they gave him an extension that at least temporarily satisfied him after he had demanded the trade. And the extension included a signing bonus of about $21 million, which has been tacked onto the previous signing bonus proration, but it's spread out against the salary cap. That's already been paid by the Browns. So the money that Myles Garrett got in 2025 was a veteran minimum base salary. You could see it here, 1.255 minimum, about 21 million in signing bonus, and then $1 million, $2 million in per game roster bonus and workout bonus money. And it's funny because only 2.255 million was guaranteed, but that doesn't include the big signing bonus that he got at the start of the season. The future years here for Myles Garrett kick in via an option bonus that was previously due on March 25th of this season. But right before March 25th hit, this option bonus which for this season is worth well north of $25 million. I think it's about $25 million. I have it written on the Twitter. It's about fair market rate for an option bonus, or what you would expect, and then you add the base salary and you add the incentives, and it basically comes out to a salary cap hit somewhere in the 20s for Myles Garrett for this season. That now does not trigger until before the regular season. So the Browns don't take the charge on Myles Garrett until 6 months from now. And because of that, the window to potentially move Myles Garrett is infinitely more attractive to Cleveland. And the same thing could be said next year, and the same thing could be said after that. I think there's definitely a recognition here that Myles was very unhappy, and it took a lot of money committed from the Cleveland Browns to satisfy him last offseason. And I think that there might have been a tacit agreement, or maybe if it was even a written agreement, that they would hit this restructure a season into the contract to keep options open. And the thing is, it's not just it's not just Myles Garrett that might want out. It's the Browns, as I said, that might want the potentially enormous return that could come for trading Myles Garrett. And when you have a player this good, then even if it takes an enormous cost, you should have other teams around the NFL who are interested. Brandon Aiyuk, I know a lot of people ask about him. I don't know if 49ers fans exactly want to talk about him all the time, but we're sitting here on March 27th, and I can't wait to talk to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan at these owners' meetings. One more shout out to Mike for this epic thumbnail. I cannot wait to hear their takes on the Brandon Aiyuk situation for the 49ers. They're obviously keeping him aboard for now, and I think that it makes perfect strategic sense because there's no benefit for the 49ers to letting him go before they have to. And we talk about roster option bonuses kicking in. Aiyuk has one that's scheduled to kick in on September 1st, just ahead of the start of the regular season. That is $25 million. But it's not guaranteed, and the 49ers don't have to exercise it or do anything with it until that date. So right now, much to the chagrin of Washington Commanders fans, the 49ers can sit on their hands, and there should be no hurry. Do you guys like this fancy water? They did not pay me for this, by the way. Saratoga Springs. It's actually really good, but I think it's way too expensive. However, Lombardi herself is a fan of this very fancy water, and I got a problem on my hands because she doesn't drink anything else. She just wants this fancy water now. So anyway, I'll take advantage of it, and it's going to be a little warm in Phoenix. I know I can't take it with me, but for the time being, I can hydrate as we talk, and I prepare to answer some of your questions about Brandon Aiyuk. A little bit of breaking news coming in from TMZ. I can't believe that I'm quoting TMZ, but Micah sent this to me. Puka Nacua's accuser has withdrawn her petition for a temporary restraining order, per TMZ, but she is still pursuing a civil lawsuit. Has accused Puka Nacua of an anti-Semitic comment and of biting her. And I guess he hasn't denied the bite, but he said that it was horseplay, and the accuser here is saying the opposite by filing a civil suit. This is all obviously very intriguing timing if you're an NFL fan, or if you're somebody who follows the NFC West, the best division in all football specifically, because JSN just got paid record money by the Seattle Seahawks, and up next is Puka Nacua. But Puka Nacua has been in a lot of off-field headlines that I'm sure his representation doesn't exactly appreciate. Will the Rams pay him a record amount this offseason? What are they thinking? How is this all going to get resolved? Will the NFL step in at any point and discipline Puka Nacua? Because we've seen it happen even if there are no criminal charges. And remember that week 1 of this 2026 season for the 49ers is against Puka Nacua and the Rams. That's something that I talked about in the morning video today. I'm going to talk about the Melbourne game against the Rams, the one in Australia, here in a bit. But let's get to Brandon Aiyuk. We're sitting here on March 27th. 49ers theoretically don't have to do anything until September 1st. When Brandon Aiyuk is jettisoned from the 49ers, as we expect, although crazier things have happened, so maybe not, but as we expect, he's going to be jettisoned at some point, either via release or via trade. The 49ers will be able to open up about $6 to $8 million of 2026 salary cap space. His hit would go down from 14.8, so about $6 million of salary cap space will open up. If you don't think that's a big deal, think again. That amount of salary cap space can be very valuable for the 49ers either this year when you're trying to absorb a bigger number, potentially Myles Garrett, if we want to talk about that. I mean, Joey Bosa is still out there. I promised I would talk about him a little bit. That he could be right now haggling with the 49ers over the difference between $13 million a year and $7 million a year. There you go. There's $6 million, right? So I think fans often get desensitized by what they perceive to be small amounts, but they're not small amounts, especially for a team like the 49ers that's given out so many A-list contracts and they're trying to stay salary cap sustainable moving forward. So there's a reason why the 49ers have to draw a hard line in the sand with how much they could potentially pay Joey Bosa. And there's a reason why they want to maneuver this Brandon Aiyuk situation as deftly as possible to try to get as many resources back as possible, if that is indeed possible. And obviously to try to benefit financially as much as they can. And the fact that they got the guarantees for 2026 voided, that was huge because that actually opened up the possibility of moving on from Brandon Aiyuk this offseason. But he's still registering that $14 million salary cap hit. That comes off the books, and then the dead money floods in, at least a portion of it, if this happens post June 1st, as we expect it to the point where the 49ers would open up that $6 million and change of salary cap space. And, I chart this, I get it. I chart it very, very fastidiously, and I can open it up for you guys on the screen right now so we can kind of illustrate where the 49ers would be. I have Aiyuk in this category called special case. $14.64 million. As you can see, the 49ers are at $18 million or so right now in salary cap space. Trent Williams is going to be a case of extension and restructure all in one. So the largest cap hit taking up the 49ers $322 million of liabilities is with Trent Williams at $46.3 million. We're just going to play around with this and move Trent Williams down to $24 million with an extension. You push the money backwards, and we'll assume that Brandon Aiyuk is either traded or released, and we'll move this down to about $8 million. Let's look up to see, okay, there the 49ers are, $47 million in salary cap space. In 2000, let me undo that so we don't, okay, we're back to where the 49ers were before. Move to the 2027 books for San Francisco. Aiyuk is no longer going to be on those books once they part ways with him. He's going to be there through dead money, but he's not going to be there as a special case this year. So the 49ers will probably cut that salary cap hit by at least, it says $41.45 million for 2027 right now. When you get the acceleration of all the dead money, I'm sure they'll be paying in the 20s. So let's say that they cut it by $15 million next year. I know I'm estimating right now. I'll look up the exact numbers, but all of a sudden your liabilities will go down to a reasonable $328 million for the 2027 season. So the Aiyuk maneuver is one the 49ers don't have to rush with, but ultimately I think in their financial plans, moving on from him, being able to get those 2026 guarantees voided will allow the 49ers to push their chips in on another player or players elsewhere, because $27 million, which had been owed to Brandon Aiyuk this year, was a large chunk of change. Hands were tied in 2025. Hands are no longer tied for the 49ers in 2026. You've already seen the 49ers go out and be aggressive, signing free agents. But what we've seen them do is play this type of Moneyball over the course of free agency, over the course of this month, with the pedigree of the San Francisco 49ers backing them up. I'm not trying to offend any Oakland A's fans right now, but the Oakland A's played Moneyball while they're the Oakland A's, and you saw the movie with Brad Pitt. there's not a lot of selling power if you were the Oakland A's, now the Las Vegas A's. There was, you're going to have a hard time competing with some of the glamour franchises in the MLB. With the 49ers, they have, just take a look at the contracts that they have executed over the course of this offseason, starting with Mike Evans, $4.25 million salary cap hit. For a deal that initially had been rumored to be worth up to $27 million a year, I know it's not nearly that big, but they got him at a cap hit of $4.25 million. Christian Kirk, cap hit of under $3 million. Brett Toth might be the starting left guard, $2.5 million. We got to get Robert Jones on here. I wonder if his contract is out, but I'm sure that Robert Jones has a smaller cap hit than Brett Toth coming off a season where he didn't play. They traded for Osa Odigizua, so they had to inherit the Cowboys contract, so that's a bit bigger at $16.75 million. But look at Greenlaw signed for a deal worth up to $31.5 million with Denver last year. The 49ers, 365 days later, have him on their team for a salary cap hit of $3.55 million. Nate Hobbs signed for a deal worth $48 million with the Green Bay Packers last year. 365 days later, the 49ers have him at a salary cap hit of $3.38 million. You can see where I'm going here. Like Eddie Pinheiro, we talked about, this guy can ask for more than $5 million a year. 49ers were able to get him at a cap hit of $1.95 million. Yes, I mean, it was $4.25 million per year, but they worked the cap gymnastics to push the hits into the future, and they got all of these guys at these super manageable hits to fit under the roof of the 2026 salary cap. And I call it Moneyball, but I call it Moneyball with a New York Yankees type of flair. Well, and it's fitting that I use the Yankees because they've kicked the San Francisco Giants ass in San Francisco 2 straight games here to open this season. But the 49ers have the drawing power of a big market glamour franchise with arguably the best coach, one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. Look why Mike Evans chose to come to the 49ers, because he loves football. He wants to win a championship. He believes in Brock Purdy. He believes in Kyle Shanahan, and George Kittle, another A-lister, convinced him to come for less money. The Bucks have straight up gone out and said that their initial offer was to Mike Evans, which he didn't respond to, was bigger than the offer he ended up signing with the 49ers. How frustrating must it to be Tampa Bay, where you got to deal with Todd Bowles as your coach and Baker Mayfield as your quarterback? For the 49ers, they've got the glamour of Shanahan, Purdy, George Kittle, Trent Williams, even though they're working through the contract there, Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey. That's where Mike Evans decided to go. And the 49ers were able to lure him with what they have from a star power drawing perspective, and they were able to get a contract that cost only $4.25 million on the salary cap this year. The Mike Evans 2026 salary cap hit is the size of the kicker's APY. Eddie Pinheiro is at $4.25 million average per year. That's what the wide receiver one, the ex-wide receiver, the future Hall of Fame wide receivers cap hit for the 49ers is this year. If that's not Moneyball, I don't know what is. And the 49ers playing this Moneyball opens up salary cap space, because if you trade for somebody at any point, you have to have enough room at that moment to absorb their contract. So Myles Garrett for an acquiring team would cost what? I have to look up the exact numbers, but would definitely cost more than $10 million. Probably somewhere in the 20s. I'll get the exact number before the end of this show. I know I talked about it in the video yesterday, but the 49ers at this point could be projected, even after they signed their draft class, to have $18 million of salary cap space. And then I already showed you, if you jettison Brandon Aiyuk and you extend Trent Williams, this number balloons to around $48 million. You enter the season with $48 million of space. I know you're planning to carry room over into 2027 and beyond, but what if you do execute a big trade, or you have one more signing to do? What if you want Joey Bosa, or if you, again, Myles Garrett? We can talk till we're blue in the face about the possibilities. At $48 million of salary cap space, or over $40 million of salary cap space, you can afford essentially anything in the near term, and you'll give yourself that flexibility to really, really push those chips into the middle of the table. That's not to say that the Cleveland Browns are going to want to do this year. That's not to say that the 49ers are going to feel that They want to send 3 or 4 first-round picks over to Cleveland. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I'm saying that you give yourself the option power to do that by opening up the salary cap space in the method that the 49ers have done. And I can't wait to discuss more of this at the owners' meetings with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. All right, I'm going to make this more interactive. Let's go back into that comment section. If you think the 49ers should do this, and by this I mean sign more guys, trade for more players, you can go ahead and let your voice be heard in the comment section. But they already have done quite a bit of impressive work over this March to position themselves in a spot where this is indeed a legitimate conversation. Yeah, we've got a lot of yeses already coming through in the chat section. Mike, what do you got for me? Yeah, we got 812 people watching. Oh, just dipped down to 783. Come on, got to stay over 800. Somebody asked, what if the 49ers trade Bosa for Garrett? I think that you're kind of just, I mean, you might get a little bit better, but the whole point would be bookending dominant pass rush. Like, I think you want to pair Nick Bosa with Myles Garrett, or pair Nick Bosa with Joey Bosa, or maybe a draft pick. Nick Bosa is a force multiplier that's been, when he's healthy, he completely changes the game. When Myles Garrett's available, he completely changes the game. You're taking on a lot of dead money if you trade Nick Bosa, and the Browns are taking a lot of dead money to trade Myles Garrett while staying in quicksand, right? Like you're not, I mean, maybe not quicksand, but maybe you're walking, those moving walkways at the airport. It's like you're walking against the direction of the moving walkway. You're not really, yeah, you could speed up and maybe make a little bit of progress, but you want to walk with the moving walkway. It'd be like you're running and then you got one of those fast moving walkways. Have you guys ever been on an escalator, one of the old escalators in Prague or somewhere in Eastern Europe? Back, the Soviet Union built, in the Soviet era, they built all of their subways. And they were like nuclear shelters. So they're super deep during the Cold War. And they had these escalators that are super fast. And they're usually kind of a brownish color. They're not the sleek silver escalator that you'll see around the US and in Western Europe. Anyway, you go to some of these old subway stations with a super fast escalator, and if you sprint up the steps, first it scares the hell out of people who haven't seen one trying to get on one because it's moving so fast and the tunnel is so long. But if you get on that escalator and you start sprinting, you haul ass. So you want to run in the direction of the escalator or the moving walkway. You don't want to go against it. You want to add edge rushers. You would want Bosa plus Bosa, or Bosa, Osa, Bosa. That's what the 49ers could do if they get Joey, or draft pick, or Bosa plus Myles Garrett. Like, I don't think that you'd want to jettison one just to bring in the other and then have the massive cost that you've already paid Nick Bosa, but hasn't yet hit the salary cap, rush up to hit the cap. I just think that you would, at best, you would be running against the moving walkway, running against the escalator, and you wouldn't be making a whole lot of progress. All right, I'm ready for some really good questions. Let's go. I think also what's worth noting is that the NFL's revenues continue to explode. The international push for the NFL is only going to make the league more valuable. I actually tweeted this today. A friend over in Australia sent this to me, and you guys can all take a look at this right now. This is from the newspaper, the Herald Sun in Melbourne. Look who's a superstar in Melbourne. There's Brock Purdy. That's the Dougie. And I believe that's the Dougie from the Bears game, right? Weren't the 49ers wearing their 94 throwback uniforms against the Bears? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's at home there. He first did the Dougie against Myles Garrett in Cleveland, which was really cool. But long story short, they're super excited about the NFL in Australia. 49ers and the Rams are going to open up the season there. The Wait list as of Thursday morning was 151,000 people long for tickets at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The stadium seats 100,000. They're going to fill this thing up. It's going to be hard to get a seat or a ticket for this game. It's going to be a hot ticket in Melbourne. The league is doing Australia. The league has done South America. They're going back to Mexico with the 49ers probably in December of this year. We'll see who the opponent for San Francisco is. The league is doing several European games. I think that you can bank on ultimately a division being based out in Europe. I think that's the way that the league is pushing things, because what that will do is it will open up the East Coast time window for television. Right now, games start at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the West Coast Pacific time. But on the East Coast, you have to wait until 1 o'clock for football to start. Well, the only way that you're not going to be playing a ton of games in the morning, I mean, this Melbourne game, it's going to be the rare exception, right? It's 10:35 a.m. Australia time. It's going to start at 5:35 p.m. Pacific time. But the way that you can fill up the East Coast morning window, and that's worth billions and billions of dollars, the 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time where people are just waiting for football to start, the way that you can fill that up is by playing consistent games in Europe. And ultimately, I think the NFL will have a division over there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 teams in the UK and 2 teams in Germany. Maybe they're floating trial balloons in some of these other countries. But as soon as that does happen, and then, of course, they're adding another game, that's going to be a whole heck of a lot of more money for the NFL. That's just going to continue this surge in the money that the league makes in league revenue. And the salary cap is directly tied to league revenue. So the salary cap has grown from, in 2019, it was $199 million per team. That was the first Super Bowl run for Shanahan and Lynch. It is now over $300 million, and we're just over half decade past that. That's how much the league revenues have grown, and therefore the salary cap has grown with them. So think of expansion of the schedule and of the league. Think of the international frontier. Think of the league renegotiating its deals with TV changing as rapidly as it is. I don't even know if network TV would exist without the NFL, to be honest, at this point, because everything seems to be moving to streaming, but the NFL is doing its deals with all the streaming services as well. And when they're ripping up these deals and renegotiating them, that is more and more money for the NFL teams. That is revenue spiking and continuing to spike for the NFL. Salary cap, therefore, is going to continue to spike for the NFL. That means that the spending power of these teams, especially the ones who are willing to spend, and I can guarantee you that the 49ers are one of the teams that is willing to spend. They've spent more money than anybody else over the course of the past 10 years. These teams can fit more under the cap. Does that mean Myles Garrett could fit under the cap for the 49ers? Maybe. Maybe it also means that you're going to be a little bit more liberal with the draft picks that you're willing to send away in a trade for one of these players. It's all fascinating stuff that ties business and sports, and that's why I wanted to do a 49ers big money update today. Mike asked me, what do I want to learn this weekend? That is a great question. I want to learn about Nick Martin. I want to know if he's out of the concussion protocol. That is near the top of my list as to things that I'm very, very curious about. So Nick Martin, is he out of the concussion protocol? That's front and center, because that is a big look forward at the 49ers linebacker position. It's going to be D. Winters last year under contract. You know, I envision the 49ers running Warner, Winters, or Warner, Greenlaw, and Winters, strong side, weak side, middle linebacker, weak side, strong side, right? Mike, Will, Sam. I envision that happening, but I'm not really sure what they think is going to happen the year after, since Winters is not under contract for 2027. Well, a lot of their problems would be solved if Nick Martin were able to step in and this year maybe even rise up to level of top backup, or maybe even take D. Winters' job. I doubt that would happen, but be ready to not only fill in for D. Winters after his contract expires, but what are they going to do at weak side in 2027? Dre Greenlaw is only under contract for 1 year, and he's got some availability issues. So the last time that we checked in with John and Kyle on Nick Martin, he was still officially in the concussion protocol. So let's hope that he's out of it, because head injuries are nothing to scoff at. And I think that he in many ways represents the potential passing of the torch at the 49ers linebacker position. So I want to know about Nick. I want to know what their latest thoughts on Brandon Aiyuk are. I think that they might hold him all the way through training camp so they don't just give him away for free. Don't let Brandon Aiyuk go to Washington's training. We know how important training camps are for wide receivers. When Brandon Aiyuk missed his in 2024, he wasn't a good player to start the 2024 season. So if Washington say that they're the ones that want to sign Brandon Aiyuk, if they have big receiver problems and they still don't trust their receiver position leaving the NFL draft, and they say, well, God, Brandon Aiyuk might make things better, they might say, we need him in training camp. 49ers are holding him. How do we get him to leave the 49ers and bring him to us? Well, we got to trade something for him. And the 49ers might be able to get something for Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, there are benefits to holding Brandon Aiyuk. It is not just petty business from San Francisco. They are actually strategically trying to maximize the value of an asset on their football team. And obviously the relationship with that asset has gone sour. But I mean, I illustrated it about a week ago. The relationship with Jimmy Garoppolo had not gone sour, but Jimmy Garoppolo was still an asset that the 49ers didn't want to give away for free. And the fact that they kept him throughout the entire offseason, it got weird during training camp when he was playing catch with himself on the side field, but it ended up paying off big time for the 49ers because that's why they ended up having a bridge from Trey Lance to Brock Purdy. So I think San Francisco is going to operate in the same business sense. When's Trent Williams going to get figured out? Well, we'll see. It doesn't seem that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are all too concerned about it, but I can't wait to discuss that further with them over the course of these owners' meetings. You don't think that Washington is interested in BA? Well, their fans certainly are, so I don't know. Well, I do not claim to know what I don't know about the Brandon Aiyuk situation outside the 49ers, but I can tell you what San Francisco's strategy here is and what it should be, and I think they're actually following that pathway right now. Dre passed his physical. The 49ers announced the signing. His contract is up, so everything cleared there just fine. This is true. Washington, their executives cannot talk about Brandon Aiyuk because he's under contract with the 49ers. They want to avoid a tampering penalty. This seems about right for Juwan Jennings, 15, 16 million, but you don't know how the market works. Dobbs, by the way, is faster than Juwan Jennings. And there's a lot of value placed by the league on speed at wide receivers. So keep that in mind when you're talking about value for Juwan Jennings, who is still a free agent. We got Invader 49er giving the 49ers drafted advice. He wants Casey Concepcion at 27 and the defensive end, the light defensive end, the Bryce Huff type defensive end, Romello Height at pick number 58. Robert Kennedy, I don't know if it's that Robert Kennedy, but Robert Kennedy says Niners will get Garrett. Mark it down. 49ers will get Myles Garrett. That would be crazy. It'd be crazy. It would probably break this channel, but we'll cover the hell out of it because that contract restructure, which I explained to you a few minutes ago, is real. Cleveland was able to get that done with Myles Garrett. Jake says, how a team gets stuck with dead money when the player walks away blows my mind. Well, it's because dead money is not money that the team still owes the player. Dead money is money the team has already owed the player but decided to take against the salary cap later. So when the player leaves, like every single dollar that you pay to a player in this league has to eventually hit the salary cap. You can manipulate when it hits the cap, but every $1 that goes to a player's bank account has to be $1 that hits the salary cap. So when you push that money into the future and the player leaves, you can't continue pushing it into the future. He has to be on the roster for you to push it into the future. So that money accelerates and hits now, unless you use the post-June 1st designation or you trade somebody after post June 1st, then you could take the bulk of the hit the next year. But it still has to hit. It can't be prorated anymore. It still hits relatively soon. So dead money, I think people misunderstand dead money. They're like, well, they're still paying Aiyuk with dead money. No, dead money is what they've already paid Aiyuk, but they have, because they trade or they cut him, if they do that, then they have to take it against the salary cap sooner rather than later. But salary cap space is connected from season to season. So whatever you don't use in 2026 moves to 2027. If you manage it right, you don't mind taking the dead money early. That's why Miami took so much with Tua Tagovailoa now. You'd rather just get rid of the player. You don't want to continue paying somebody who you don't want on your football team. You'd rather take the acceleration of dead money now and then carry over whatever salary cap space you have left into future seasons. You got to treat it all as one big pool. Being Butterfly, I understand Being Butterfly just started watching football not too long ago. Really, really smart viewer. Says, I don't believe the Browns when they say that they're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. They might not be interested right now, but they want to get their rules change approved first. They might want some leverage to get that rules change approved so that more draft picks can be involved. But they're making moves to prepare for a Myles Garrett trade. Yes, I mean, at the very least, they've kept the option open and made the option more feasible with the restructure. You think that Myles Garrett would choose the 49ers? Well, the 49ers would have to choose him because it would cost a boatload. But, I mean, it would be wild. It would be wild if Myles Garrett came over to San Francisco. It is an AFC-NFC relationship here, right? It is not intra-conference. This is when you draw up big trades, these are some of the parameters that you like to see. I mean, Parsons from Dallas to Green Bay was shocking because they're both in the NFC, but this is AFC, NFC. Stuff like that. The 49ers have traded for Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey in the past. You can never say never. All right, that's what I want to learn this weekend. I can't talk about Myles Garrett, obviously, because the 49ers aren't going to mention a player under contract with another team. But I want to know about Nick Martin. I want to know about Brandon Aiyuk. I want to know about the 49ers thinking in the draft, what they think of their free agency Moneyball process. Talk some contracts. Talk to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Tomorrow, I fly to Phoenix. You should drop questions that you want me to ask Shanahan and Lynch into the comments section. I will be perusing the comments section to see what you guys say. So I just have an idea of the pulse of the viewership, of the fan base here. Tomorrow, we'll do a show again in the morning. I promise to have some content for you in the morning. And then I'll fly to Phoenix and we'll probably do something for you after I land in Phoenix. Sunday's when I talk to John Lynch. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And also, a lot of you need to hit the alarm bell button. Not enough of you have hit the little alarm bell button so you know when these exclusive updates come out. And there's going to be a lot of exclusive material coming to you from the desert. So it's going to be a very informative few days, but hit the subscribe button and hit the alarm bell button so you're ready for all that information to flow out. And you're not going to get this on a lot of the other channels, that's for sure, because they're not going to be even in on some of these conversations. So be sure that you are tuned in here, plugged in here for the 49ers at the NFL owners meetings. This is the best offseason event of the year. This is the most revelatory offseason event of the year. So buckle up. That's why Mike has made the killer thumbnail. Let's give Mike a lot of credit here. How about a round of applause to Mike? Working hard on a Friday evening, bringing you some entertainment on a Friday evening. And, you know, I wanted to make this show exactly 49 minutes long. And that's what we have right now. 49 minutes long. We'll talk to you soon.